Hello, here is DesignVAT's car maintenance tracking template. Now this is the advanced template, so we've added new functionalities to the standard template that was released last year. Now if you haven't watched the standard video, the link should be somewhere on the screen, so simply click on the link to the standard video. With the standard template, users were able to create a database for all of their cars, track daily gas purchases for each car, routine service expenses, so you can know the total amount you spend to maintain each car, the mileage per car, and also generate monthly reports. Now, with the advanced version, which I'm going to cover in this video, it includes all the features and functionalities from the standard template, plus the ability to track your renewals. So you can track your license renewals and your car renewals on an annual basis. You can equally create a calendar to be able to see all routine activities that are due for the current month and also generate monthly reports. Now let's begin. So on the screen I've opened up the template and it's powered with Microsoft Excel. So you need to have Excel, a version from 2013 installed on your computer. Now once you open up the template, you arrive at the dashboard, and this holds 3 thumbnails to navigate to the 3 major sections of the template. We have the Assets section where you add your cars and your equipment, the Requisition section where you enter your daily car requests, and the Reports section where you view monthly automatically generated reports. Now in this video, I'm going to go through all the sections, starting with the first. So to navigate to a particular section, you simply click on the thumbnail, for instance, Assets, and it takes you to that section of the template. So now we're in the Assets section of the template. Now all sections in this template have an identical formatting. In the upper left-hand corner, we have the section title, and this tells the user at any point in time the section you're currently on. So notice it says Vehicle Database, so you know this is to list all the cars in your fleet. To the right of this, we have 4 buttons: to add a new car, to delete an existing car, to add new equipment, and to add your annual car renewals. Above this, we have the navigation pane, and this is made up of several labels. Each label represents a button to navigate to a particular section of the template. So for instance, clicking on the dashboard label takes us back to the dashboard where we initially started. Recall we then clicked on the first thumbnail to navigate to the Assets section. So each label represents a button to navigate to a particular section of the template. Below the 4 buttons here, we have our data table, and this is where all cars will be listed. At the top of the table, we have our column headers. These are the attributes you're expected to supply for each car you store in the database. Now to add a new car, you simply click on the first button. Once you click, it pops up a form, and you use this form to supply values to the table mentioned earlier. You notice the column headers we referenced are equally listed on the form as labels. The user simply supply values to the white portion of the form. Now in this video, we're going to focus on only the new functionalities. So entering new cars, entering your gas purchases, maintenance activities, requisition, these are all old functionalities and have already been covered in the standard template. So please kindly watch the standard template before proceeding. On the screen, there should be a link you can click to navigate to that video. In this video, we're going to focus only on the new functionalities. To add in my first car, first I indicate the brand, the model. Now, not all fields are mandatory. To know the mandatory fields, you simply click on Enter, and they're going to be highlighted in red. So these are the fields that you must enter before Excel is going to accept the new car. The other fields are optional, meaning you can always add them in future. I'm going to go ahead and enter the year, the purchase date, the chassis number, the full tank level. So let's assume the car can take 40 liters, and the current fuel level. Now it's advisable to fill up your tank before entering data to the database. So recall that the template helps you track your current fuel level and also your gas purchases. So to be able to do that effectively, it's advisable to fill your tank first so that you can be able to get the accurate fuel level, which in this case will be 40 since that is the tank level. And next, your mileage. Recall the template also helps you track the current mileage for each and every one of your cars. To do that effectively, you need to enter the starting mileage as at the day you're entering it into the template. So let's assume that that is 50. And you need to tell the template the number of kilometers per liter. So let's assume that for each liter, this car can cover 10 kilometers. The color of the car, white, and then the amount that I purchased the car. So these are the only compulsory fields. The others are optional, so I'm going to leave them blank and click on Enter. Once I do, the template is going to accept the entry and tell me that the car has been added we should see it listed on the first row. So you notice all the attributes that I supplied. Now for every car you store to the database, the template will automatically generate a car ID. Now the car ID is made up of the brand, the model, the year, and the color. Now the ID is very useful as this is what you use to reference this particular car in other sections. So whenever you add new fuel purchases, you make use of this ID. Requisitions, expenses, and so on, you make use of this particular ID. Now scrolling to the right, on the extreme right, you notice that we have some formula generated fields. So the template will automatically indicate the status, which is active, for any car that you enter. But whenever you dispose the car, or the car is no longer active, simply change it to inactive. Next, the template will automatically calculate depreciation using 20% and the number of years that you've had the car. Now, other functionalities have been covered in the standard video. To delete, you simply click on the vehicle ID, click on delete, and then click on yes. Next, we move to a new feature that has been added to the advanced template, which is equipment. So in addition to tracking your cars, the template now enables you to track your equipment and also your equipment assignment so that at any point in time, you know the employee that has each and every one of your equipments. Now to do that, you simply click on the new equipment button to navigate to that section of the template. So now we're in the equipment section of the template. You notice it has a similar formatting, the label in the upper left telling you this is a database for all of your equipment, 3 buttons to the right to add, delete, and assign to an employee. Above we have our navigation pane, and below the 3 buttons we into our table where all equipment will be listed. Now as aforementioned, this is a new functionality which enables you to store all of your equipment to a central database and assign equipment to employees so that at any point in time you know which employee has which equipment. To add a new equipment, you simply click on the first button. It pops up a form, then you supply the 6 values. First, the date in which you purchased the equipment. Now, the format of the date depends on the settings on your computer. Mine is day, month, year. That's why I enter the day first, then the month, then the year. So kindly check the settings on your computer and use the format in all sections for the date field. Next, you indicate the equipment type. Now later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can add new categories, but for now we have only one, which I'm going to use computers. Next, you indicate the registration dates. Now this is optional, so it's added on request. The equipment name, now this is the name of the computer or the equipment that you purchased. So let's assume we purchased the computer on the 1st of February 2019. We purchased it for $300 and this is the serial number. So we supply the 6 values. We can then click enter to store this equipment to our database. So we should see it listed on the first row. So that's how you add equipment. You notice that the column attributes have all been populated. Now if I scroll to the extreme right, you notice that we have 3 columns that I have not covered. The first is the status columns. Whenever you add a new equipment, Excel will automatically enter the status active. But whenever maybe the equipment gets damaged or you sell it off, you simply change this to inactive so that it doesn't show in the summary report. I'm going to leave it on active. Next, we have 2 formula generated fields. The first is going to tell you the current, that's the most recent date in which you assigned this equipment to an employee, and the most recent staff that you assigned it to. Now this is dynamic, it will automatically change as you assign it to new employees. So let me demonstrate this functionality. So scrolling to the left, recall we have the 3rd button here to assign equipment to employees. So once you click on that button, it takes you to a new section, which is the assignment section. The same formatting, we have the label, 2 buttons, navigation, and the table at the bottom. To add a new assignment, you simply click on the first button. It pops up a form. You indicate the date that you're assigning it to an employee. I'm just going to make this August. So that's the 4th month. Next, I select the equipment. Now by default, Excel will automatically populate the drop-down list with all of your equipment. So we currently have only 1 equipment, that's why only 1 is listed. If you have 10, the 10 will be listed here. You simply select the equipment, make use of your tab key to move to the next field. You enter the end date if this equipment has been returned back. If not, you leave it blank. Next, you select the employee that you assigned it to. Right now we have no employee in our database, it's blank, so that's why I manually typed it in. And lastly, you enter optional details. It's optional, you can leave it blank. So once you supply the assignment information, you simply click on enter and it's going to document that assignment. So you notice the first row has been populated. So we've told the template that rows random is currently the custodian of this particular equipment. So once you go back to the assets section and you click on the equipments, if we scroll to the right, you notice that the template would have automatically updated the last two columns, telling us that this particular laptop is currently with rows random, and this is the date that we assigned it, which is the 24th of April. So you notice that these two fields have been automatically populated by the template. And it's dynamic. It's going to show the most recent date. So April is currently the most recent assignment. So now I'm going to add another assignment for the month of May. So I simply click on the Assign Equipment, New Assignment, and I'm going to make this May. Select the equipment, enter the employee, leave the details blank, click on Enter, and then click on OK. So now I'm telling the template that I've assigned this equipment twice, firstly to Rose and then secondly to John. So the template is going to pull up the most recent, which is May, and that's what's going to be returned to the equipment section. So to confirm that, we simply go back to Assets, Equipment, and scrolling to the right, you'll notice that we now have John Randall and the 29th of May. So the two columns are automatically generated. At any point in time, once you open the equipment database section, you can be able to know all the equipment that you have and the most recent assignment as the employee that currently has it and the date in which you gave it to that employee. So that's the second new functionality. So recall I covered the first functionality, which is the ability to add new equipment. The second functionality, which is the ability to assign equipment to employees. Now the third new functionality is the ability to store all of your car renewals. So once you click on the fourth button, that's the Add Vehicle Renewal button, it takes you to the section where you document the annual renewals. So once you click, you notice it takes us to another section with a similar formatting. The label at the top tells you this is where you document only annual car renewals. So the date is going to be calculated on an annual basis, which is once a year. To enter a renewal type, under the first column, you simply enter the type, for instance, your document renewals. Let's assume you do this on a yearly basis. Next, you indicate the car. So this is going to list all cars in your fleet. We currently have only one, so we simply select that. And next, we indicate the most recent renewal date. So let's assume we renewed this in March 2018. Once you press enter, the template will automatically calculate the due date in the current year, which is 2019, which will equally be the 2nd of March 2019. So the day and the month remains fixed. It's only the year that would automatically update to the current year. So when you open up this template next year, this will automatically update to 2020 and so on. Lastly, you can indicate the staff or the employee that's responsible with this renewal. To add another renewal activity, simply below that you double click. Let's assume we renew our plate number every year. You enter plate renewal. You select the car. We have only one car, so I'm going to use the same car. You enter the renewal date. You notice the moment you enter the date, the template will automatically return the same day and month, but the year will always be the current year. And as I said, this is dynamic. It will automatically update next year. Lastly, you indicate the staff that's tasked with this responsibility. So this is just a database. It's more for documentation purposes, so that once you open it at a glance, you can be able to see all of your cars, all of the various annual renewals you have, the most recent, and the date you were supposed to do it in the current year. So that covers all the functionalities of the assets section. Adding new cars, deleting existing cars, adding new equipment and assigning equipment to employees, and lastly, adding your annual car renewals. So now that we've covered the assets section, next we move to the maintenance section of the template. To do that, you simply click on the label on the navigation pane, and it takes us to that section of the template. So now we're in the preventive maintenance schedule section, as we can see from the label in the upper left-hand corner. Now this is a new functionality added to the advanced template, and it enables you to define for each of your cars routine checks. So you can be able to set, for instance, every 3 months, remind change the oil for a particular car. And once you set it, every 3 months on the monthly calendar, it's going to let you know when it's time for that activity to be undertaken. Now to do this, you simply click on the button New Schedule to define the schedule. It pops up a form. Firstly, you indicate the asset type. So what type of assets do you want to create a schedule for? The template supports two types of assets, which is cars and equipment. Now, most of your preventive maintenance activities will be related to cars. So for the first example, I'm going to select cars. Next, I'm going to select the specific car. Now, to click the drop-down list, the template will list all the cars in your database. So the asset name is a dynamic field. I change this to equipment and I tap to the next field, you notice it lists all the equipment in my database. So the values in the drop-down list here is subject to your selection in the asset type drop-down list. So if I select cars and move to the next field, it's going to list only cars in my database. Right now I have only one car, so I go ahead and click it. The next thing I need to do is to indicate the maintenance activity and the most recent maintenance date. So for instance, let's assume the example I used earlier on oil change. Now you notice that we've populated this drop-down list with the most common activities. Later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can add new activities or edit the existing ones. So I'm going to go ahead and click on oil change. And I'm going to tell the template that the last time I changed the oil was in July. So on the 29th of July 2019 was the last time that I changed the oil in this car. But I want the template to remind me every 2 months to change the oil in this car. So under interval, I'm going to select months because this reminder is based on the months and not mileage. So I'm going to click on months. Next, I tell the template the interval, which will be 2. So every 2 months, which is 2 months from this date, the template will automatically calculate that, which is the 29th of September. Remind me to change the oil. Next, you select the employee that's supposed to undertake the activity and you click on enter. Now the template is dynamic. So 2 months from this date is the 29th of September 2019. But this is already passed. So the template is going to show you the most recent due date. So once I click on enter, you notice that here it's going to list the most recent due date, which is probably going to be in the month of November. So it's dynamic. When I entered into the template, it was the 29th of July 2019. But the most recent interval, that's every 2 months, will be the 29th of November. Now, once we pass the 29th of November, the template will remind me on the 29th of January. So it's going to keep repeating it 2 months forever. To show how dynamic this is, I'm going to change this from July, for instance, to August. So let's assume the last time I changed the oil was in August. So 2 months from August will be September, October. So if I click enter, this should update to the 29th of October, which is today. And if I open this template tomorrow, this date will change automatically from the 29th of October to the 29th of December. And when the 29th of December passes, in the same way it will update to the 29th of February. So it will automatically keep changing on a 2 months interval basis. So that's how this works. And the advantage of this is later on in the video, I'm going to show you a calendar. So there's a monthly reminder calendar. So once you select the month of October, it's going to list all activities during the month of October. So this is going to be listed. So let's add another schedule. You simply click on new schedule. You indicate the asset type. You select the asset name. You indicate the last maintenance date. I'm going to make this June. The maintenance activity. So let's assume that I change the fuel filter, the interval. So let's assume I'm supposed to change this every 3 months. So I simply select months, interval, I write 3. The template will tell me that the next time I was supposed to have changed it is the 29th of September. Next, I select the employee and I click OK. So since the 29th of September is passed, the template is going to calculate the next 3 months after the 29th. That's the most recent date that I'm supposed to update, which will be the 29th of December 2019. But not to worry, in the reports, there's a section that you can be able to see the breakdown of all the due dates and if indeed you performed it or not. So you can be able to compare between what you plan to do and what you actually did. So this is how you define your schedule. So right now we've added 2 activities. The first on a 2 months basis and the second on a 3 months basis based on this start date. So that's how the date interval works. The next interval that the template tracks is your mileage interval. Now how that works is once you click on new schedule, it works exactly the same way. You select the asset type, the asset name, but under interval here, you select kilometers. Now later on in the video, I'm going to show you how you can change this from kilometers to miles if that's the units that you use, but by default it's kilometers. And let me select the maintenance activity. Let's assume, even though this might not make practical sense, but we're supposed to flush the radiator every 30 miles or 30 kilometers. So since we've entered kilometers here, the interval will be 30. So what I'm telling the template is that every 30 kilometers remind me to flush my radiator. So it's going to remind me when my mileage is 30, when my mileage is 60, when it's 90, when it's 120, it's going to use 30 kilometer intervals. And since this is kilometers, the due date is going to be blank. And I can select the optional employee and then click on enter. So we should now have the third row, exactly the same values, but here you notice that the due date is now blank because this interval is by kilometer and not by months. And under current mileage, the template will automatically calculate the current mileage as at today. So this is one of the functionalities of the standard template that we've retained. The template automatically tracks the mileage per car. So whenever you use the car, maybe to drive somewhere, your mileage will increase so far as you enter in your starting odometer reading and your ending odometer reading. So I'm going to demonstrate that later on in the video. But right now, recall that when we added the car, we told the template that the starting mileage is 50 kilometers as at when we enter the template. So we haven't added any activity, so we've not told the template that we drove anywhere, so the current mileage is still 50. But later on in the video, when I add additional activities, you notice that the mileage will increase. And so that's why under maintenance, it tells you the current mileage is 50. And since you told the template that every 30 kilometers you want to be reminded, it means that the next time that you're supposed to flush your radiator will be when it's 60. So it's in 30 intervals. And then when 60 passes, so once your mileage increases to over 60, this will increase to 90. Now let me just quickly demonstrate this so they can see how this works. So the current mileage is 50. So I'm going to add a requisition. So let's assume someone requested to use the car so as to increase my mileage. Now please ignore the validity of the data I want to enter. All I want to do is just to add additional 15 kilometers so that this can exceed 60. So if I go to my requisition, now this functionality has been covered in the standard demo, so I'm not going to spend so much time there. I'm just going to enter a date, any random date. The vehicle, I'm going to select the particular car, and let's say 2 days. We charge that per day. I'm just going to leave all that blank, and let's assume the starting was 50, and at the end of the trip, let's assume it was 65. So what that means is that the difference is 15. So once I click enter, okay, the driver is mandatory and the project is mandatory. So if I click on enter, it's going to store that requisition. And if I scroll to the right, you notice the template will tell me that the total, so my starting odometer reading was 50, my ending was 65, meaning that I used a total of 15. So this is the total mileage. So that means that my mileage in the car would have increased. So if I go back to the maintenance schedule, you will notice that my total mileage would have increased from 50 to 65. So if I click on maintenance, you notice that automatically the current mileage has increased. So all sections are interconnected. The more you tell the template that you've used the car, so you've driven the car maybe based on requisition, or you've used the car for movement activities, you indicate the mileage, it will automatically increase the mileage. And now, since your current mileage is 65, it means that the next time that it's due will be 90, because this is in intervals of 30. And when your mileage equally passes 90, this will automatically increase to 120. When it passes 120, it will increase to 150. Okay, so that's how the mileage tracking works. The due date tracking works with the last maintenance date. So if you indicate, for instance, every 2 months, it's going to inform you 2 months after. Once 2 months passes, it's going to inform you the next 2 months after. So it's a running recurrent due date. So hope that covers, I hope that clearly explains the functionality of the maintenance schedule. So this is just where you define your planned schedule. Now it's one thing to plan, it's another thing to actually perform the plan. So that's what the third button is for, to add the activity. So here we've told the template all the activities. So here you're going to list all the activities you plan to do on a recurring basis. But eventually, when you actually perform the activity, so for instance, on the 29th of October 2019, when you change the oil of this car, you need to tell the template that you've changed the oil. And to do that, you use the Add Activity button. So that way there's a report I'm going to show later on whereby you can be able to compare and know the days in which you met up with your schedule and the days in which you were not able to meet up with it. So to do that, you simply click on the third button, Add Activity, takes you to that section, works exactly the same way. Now the Add Activity section is used for preventive maintenance, so for instance, for the activities you listed here, and also any other repairs. So for instance, if your car just suddenly breaks down and you need to change anything, you equally document it in the activity because that's a maintenance activity. Okay, so notice it says service and repair. So that's the advantage of the header at the top. It tells you what the section is for. So you document all your services, which are the PMs, the preventive maintenance, and also repair activities in case your car breaks down. Now to add a new one, you simply click on New Service. You indicate the dates in which you're undertaking that service. You select the car. The mileage, that's when you're servicing. So every time you're using the car, you would be required to enter the starting mileage, the ending mileage, so that the template can be able to tell you the total miles that you've used, and it can be able to track the mileage of your car for maintenance activities. So recall us it was 65. So let's say after the mileage, let's say it was 70. And the next time we plan to service, let's say 75. So here you indicate the maintenance type. Now, if it's a preventive maintenance, you select preventive maintenance. If it's a part repair, part replacement, again, in the video, later on in the video, we're going to show you how you can change the maintenance types. But whenever you're adding a preventive maintenance, you need to select the first, and then you indicate the item. So for instance, recall we added for oil change. So if I select oil change here, notice the template will automatically tell me that this is scheduled for the 29th of October. If I change this to the next, I think the other thing we did was radiator flush. The radiator flush was kilometers. The next we did was, I think, fuel change, which was the 29th of December. So the moment you select a service item that you've already planned to maintain in the maintenance section, the template will automatically return the scheduled plan here. Okay, so recall that in the maintenance section, we already listed the two. Fuel change for the 29th of December, oil change for the 29th of October. So if you want to add the activity, the template will remind you as at the point whereby you select the car, you select the maintenance type, preventive, and you select the service item, the template will automatically return when you're supposed to service it, which tallies with today. I'm just going to leave it like that. Let's assume it cost me 3,000, the labor cost me 4,000. Then the technician, later on you can store technicians to your database so they can be able to create a technician report. And summary, you can just say routine maintenance. You can add any other notes that you do not want to forget. That's 65, the mileage after 70, and 75. So once I click enter, it's going to store this maintenance activity. So later on, when I generate the reports, you see that when the template lists this maintenance activity, it's going to be checked as complete because we've added it here to show that we actually performed the activity. However, the other is going to be pending because we haven't added an activity to show we've conducted it. Okay, so that's how the template works. It just enables you to define activities and then track it. Next, we move to the reports section. Now, we're not going to cover the fuel log because it works exactly as demonstrated in the standard template. Requisition works as demonstrated in the standard template, and also expenses and the driver section. So we skip to the reports section, and here I'm just going to cover the new reports. Now, the first new report we have is the PM calendar. So this enables you to generate a calendar for any month, and it's going to tell you all activities that are planned. So this is a new functionality added to the advanced template. It's a preventive maintenance calendar. So all you need to do is to select the year and the month. So here, I'm going to type in year 2019. And then next I need to select the month. So you notice this has the 12 calendar months. Now select October. What I'm telling the template is show me all preventive activities or all maintenance activities that I plan to do in the month of October 2019. And right now we have only one, so you notice under total number we have one. And if we scroll to the bottom, we'll be able to see the one which is on the 29th is a Toyota Corolla oil change, one preventive maintenance. So this calendar is very useful because at a glance you can be able to know all what you're supposed to do in the month of October. So notice we have only one. And to show how dynamic this is, I'm just going to go back to my maintenance. And I'm going to change this so that the due date falls in October. So to do that, I'm going to change the interval to every month. So now that we've changed the interval to 1 month, what I'm telling the template is that on the 29th of every month, remind me to change my fall filter. So the 29th of this month, but it happens to be the same as this, so I'm just going to change the date so that we have two different dates. Let me make this the 30th. So what that means is that we now have two activities for this month. One is on the 29th and one is on the 30th. So if we go back to our calendar now, we should see a total of 2 preventive maintenance activities in the month of October 2019. So once I go to reports, I click on the first report, you notice now the total says 2. And if I scroll to the bottom, we should see the 2 listed below. So that's how dynamic the calendar is. So at a glance, you already know that on the 29th, there's something you need to do. On the 30th, there's something you need to do. This is the car. This is the activity. Oil change, fuel filter change. And it's dynamic. So for instance, if I go back to the maintenance section, and let's just say for demonstration purposes, I just quickly add another one. And as I said, this works with month maintenance because it's a calendar. It deals with dates. So let's just say my brake pad, just for demonstration purposes, I'm supposed to change it every 3 months. But let me make that 4 months. So once I click enter, it's going to store that. And the next time I'm supposed to change my brake pad is on the 29th of November 2019. So if I go to my reports and I open it for the month of November, I should see this listed in November. So if I go back to my reports and I go to my PM calendar, we're currently in October, so it's still 2. I should go to the bottom. These are the 2. The next one is in the month of November, so I need to change my calendar to November. And you notice that under November, it tells me I have 1 activity. Okay, so this is the 29th of October. November starts on the 1st. And if I scroll to the bottom here, we have the 29th. Brake pad change on the 29th. So that's how dynamic the template is, okay? And this is when November ends. This is for the next month. Just like a calendar, it has few days in the preceding month before it starts on the 1st. If I change this back to October, you notice that everything dynamically changes. So this is preceding months. 1st of October starts on Tuesday. If I scroll to the bottom, we have the 2 activities here. So that's how dynamic this calendar is. It enables you to be able to view. So at the start of every month, you can open up the calendar and know all the activities you need to do within that particular month. You can budget for it financially. You can better plan. Now, it's possible that you might have 2 activities for the same day. So you notice that the field here can display only 1 activity at a time. So if you have 2 activities for the same day, that's why we have this section on the right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my maintenance section. I'm going to alter the value so that we can have 2 activities for the same day, just for demonstration purposes. So now we have these 2 activities on the 29th, which is the same day. So if we go back to my reports and I go to the first report, you notice that we have 2 activities here. If I scroll to the bottom, it now says 2 activities, but it can display only the first. So if you want to see the breakdown of the 2 activities as listed here, all you need to do is to enter this date, which is the 29th of November, in the cell to the right. So you simply scroll to the right, enter date, you enter the 29th of October, and the template will automatically list all activities at the bottom. So notice the 2 activities here. This is the asset name. This is the activity. If I scroll to the right, this is the staff that is responsible. So this section enables you to enter any date in the month, and to automatically list a breakdown of all activities for that date. If I change this to, for instance, the 20th, you notice it to be blank because we have no activity for the 20th of October. If I change it back to the 29th, you notice that it's going to list the 2 activities we have for the 29th. That's how dynamic it is. The asset name, the activity, and the staff that's responsible. And the next one we have, recall it's on the 29th of November 2019. So in the same way, I can type that in here, 29th of November, and it will automatically list only the 1 activity we have, which is the brake pad change. So the right-hand side is to enable you enter a specific date, and it's going to break down all activities you have, while the left-hand side gives you a calendar view where you can easily see, for instance, 2, scroll to the bottom, and then you see the 2 are on the 29th. So that's a summary of how the PM calendar works, a very useful report. Next, we have the license calendar. Now, to cover the license calendar, there's a functionality I skipped, which is your driver's license tracking. So the template has a new feature also, which enables you, as you add your drivers, to be able to track when their license expires. So how does that work? You simply click on the new driver button. This has been covered in the standard template. You enter the driver's name. I'm just going to click on enter so I can see the mandatory fields. I enter the driver's license number. The renewal date. Now this is the current due date. So let's assume that this person renewed their license on the 1st of February 2017. Now license renewal varies per country. So let's assume that it's every 3 years the driver's license expires. So what that means is that in 2020, the template is supposed to tell us that this driver's license will have expired. And this is very useful, particularly if you have contract staff or even full-time staff, to be able to know when their contract expires so that they are not under your employment with an expired contract. So there we go. So once you click on enter, it's going to store that to your database. And you notice that under license renewal, we have the summary here. So it tells us that this is the license date and this is the due date, which is the 1st of February 2020, based on this renewal period. If you change the renewal period to 5 years, you notice it automatically updates to year 2022. Now later on, when you have multiple drivers, it can become quite taxing to be able to go through this column. So that's why we have a calendar. So the moment you open this calendar, which is the license calendar, you can be able to easily enter the year 2022. Let's assume we're in the year 2022. And then you select the month, which I think was February. I'm not so sure. Was it February? Yes. And there we go. On the 1st of February, Rosemary is going to tell you the driver's name and the driver's phone number. So there's one renewal due on that day. So that's the usefulness of this. So at a glance, you can be able to know that you need to call this employee to renew their license before this particular date. So going back there, let me just do another example. All you need to do is to add the driver, the mandatory fields, so it's the license number, the renewal date, we'll make it 2002, the interval, let's say it's every 5 years, and then the phone number. Now it's advisable to add all the other fields, but just to save time, I'm leaving them all blank. So to click enter, it's going to store that. And you notice that since the license date is in the year 2002, 5 years from that will be 2007. The next 5 years will be 2022. So that's how dynamic it is. It's recurring. And if we go to 2022, which we already have here, or we select January, we should see it listed. There we go. January 1st, which is a Saturday, Mary Oliver, this is her phone number. And the right hand side, you can be able to type that in, 1st of January, and it's going to automatically list the driver's name and the phone number. So that's how the calendars work. Very useful.